Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Health in Your Hands. I'm Dr. David Ajibade with the Brain and Body Foundation. Now, a few weeks ago, we had Dr. Anu Osinusi, who is the Vice President of Clinical Research at Gilead Pharmaceuticals, the company that produces remdesivir. And of course, if you were on last time, you saw the wonderful testimonial that Mrs. Franca Yetu gave about the difference that remdesivir made, and there's so many stories about that around the world. So we are fortunate that Anu, Dr. Shinusi, could make it again to educate us on some of the things that our thoughts for the future and really educate us about viruses in general and pandemics and what we can do about it, especially those of us in third world countries. So, Dr. Shinusi, thank you again for making it.
Thank you so much, Dayo, for having me over a second time. I really appreciate this opportunity to be a guest on your show. Thank you.
You are welcome. And what she didn't tell us last time is that she's worked closely with Dr. Fauci. She's worked with Dr. Redfield, who was the former CDC director of the CDC in the US. So she's really rubbed shoulders with some, giants. And by the way, her older sister, who also I know, we were in UCH together, is a professor of infectious disease. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct, Dayo. So yes, I always say that I'm always following off Tatoi's footsteps because I think she's one of the most amazing people in the world.
She is a wonderful person, without a doubt, and so is your mother, by the way, who I'm working with in this our sickle cell disease project. So, and your mom is also a professor of hematology. Yes.
Yes, I am blessed and unfortunate to come to have a wonderful family of very academic people, as I like to say.
Yes, yes, indeed. And okay, we won't talk about the other one. Yeah, from a family of overachievers, in my opinion. But at least
we
thank
are
God.
we're very blessed, as I like to say.
That you are. Okay, so let's get back to the study at hand. Let's talk about viruses. I remember I was listening to a lecture and the professor was saying that they were absolutely certain, that's 99.99% certain that the next pandemic, this is before COVID-19, the next pandemic was going to be a viral pandemic. And in my mind, I was like, why viruses? What's this whole thing about viruses that makes them so pandemic-y? So I felt, let's talk about that and let's see what are your thoughts. Well, first of all, tell us what a virus is. You want to define what a virus is too, by the way. So, thank you.
Yes. So, viruses are these, tiny agents, as I say, that unlike a lot of other infectious disease agents, the thing that makes viruses very challenging is that they rely on your cell. They rely on the human cell machinery to copy themselves and make new viruses, right? So when you think about how you're trying to develop a drug, unlike things like bacteria or fungi, viruses, they intimately rely on that human cell machinery to copy themselves. So when you think of trying to develop drugs that work against viruses, the challenge that those of us in drug development have is, first of all, how do you stop that virus from developing new viruses without damaging the inner workings of a healthy cell too, right? So it's almost like, when people think of oncology agents, like how do you kill the cancer and not kill the person themselves, right? So that's the thing about viruses. You want to target parts of the things that make that virus grow and replicate without also damaging the inner workings of a healthy cell, which is very different from other infectious agents. So that's why antiviral drug development is very challenging, and that's why you've seen that for many years there are all these different viruses that we haven't necessarily found the cure to, and some we have, and some we don't. So I'm happy to explain further how the different steps of how viruses do this, if that's something that you think the
Yeah,
audience.
sure. So is that why? Okay, so you've explained why it's so difficult to make a drug for a virus, but why is it that it's viruses that have been most epidemics and pandemics have been due to viruses, right? Or are we talking about other things like I'm a little foggy now. The Black Plague was what was that? Was that a virus?
Yeah,
Smallpox was a
yeah.
virus. Was polio was a virus. Is there any pandemic or epidemic that was not caused by a virus?
So, I guess as you said, when you think of, the, Yersinia and the Black Plague, yes, but you're absolutely right. Like, most pandemics are caused by viruses, and you think about, maybe, more recently we've had, we had the SARS, which is not much worse than this COVID-19 coronavirus has killed many more people than the SARS did, or you think about influenza and all these other viruses that you talk about, and that's because viruses are really everywhere. You think about viruses are in animals, viruses are in people, and viruses are able to make that leap from animals sometimes to humans. Another reason why viruses are easily become pandemics is the way they are also transmitted, right? A lot of these viruses that you're thinking of are respiratory droplets. So when you come into close interaction and humans come into close interaction, that makes them also very, very contagious. And so you're right in saying that a lot of scientists are like, what's the next virus? It's not an issue of are we ever going to have another pandemic? We probably will, based on the history of pandemics. It's just that what is it going to be, and how are we going to be prepared prepared for the next one that will happen, is the important is an important question that many people continue to study.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So were you going to explain a little bit more about how the what aspect were you going to talk about again with regards to viruses?
Well, I think maybe what we've talked about is sufficient. Do you think?
Okay.
Or
No, I thought you were asking for permission to go deeper, and or there was another aspect. But fine, that's fine. We certainly want to keep at a level on which the general population can follow, right? So let's talk about. You know what? Let's take a break now, and then we'll come back after this break. So stay tuned, folks. Okay, cool. I think you explained it. It was like I had a sense that you were asking for permission to keep going, and
I was, but then I was thinking like, oh, how am I going to, like, I was going to talk about, like, the how, when you're thinking of the virus, it's the virus is attaches to the whole cell, then it sneaks inside, and then it tricks that cell into making its own copies of its own genes and its own proteins, and then it comes out and infects the next cell. So that's why you're trying to target those proteins or those genes, and developing drugs that can mimic that, so that they interfere with that viral life cycle. But then I was like, maybe it's too. Yeah. I'm going into I'm consciously trying to catch myself to not go down the rabbit hole of I'm speaking to a more like scientific audience versus a general audience. So
yeah, and because this is even watched in very remote areas, so we're talking about even people who are even pretty much illiterate. They just are just able to understand English, much less technical abstract terms. So yeah, I hear you. Thank you for being aware of that. So 640, 641, 648. Okay, so 648. All right, so this next session is a good time for us to start talking about lessons learned and collaborations. I mean, okay, is there any interesting aspect of what you, which countries have you, would you say, I mean, anything has come, what else has come up in this 1 year of working with COVID-19 that you would like to share with us, for instance?
Yeah, I think if you are thinking about the like if you really wanted. Oh, are we on?
No, well, no,
Okay.
I had a
Okay.
breakdown, they'll cut it out.
Yeah, no, I think if you are thinking of you know, the way that people have had to work, it's more like just see the beauty of like for you to when these things happen, it makes you recognize like it's all about relationships you build in advance